Welcome back to the $2 Film Club, a weekly podcast where Ryan and I discuss movies. Today we are talking about the first two films in the John Wick franchise, currently going strong with, what are we on, the fifth entry now?
I don't know. I thought it was the 10th. Sorry.
No, I think, well, I don't know. It's going to get confusing because I guess the next one is technically going to be called John Wick 5, but there will have already been 5 movies out. And a TV show, I guess, but the less said about
Who
that,
watched
probably the
that,
better.
right?
I sure didn't because it looked
I
stupid.
watched I watched 5 minutes and I just instantly got bored and I turned it off. Like I
See,
can't
I
tell
knew it was
you.
probably going to be bad from the trailer. I was just like, I'm not going to watch that.
Well, it makes no sense because like I always get like super suspicious when projects start out as films and then
Mm.
develop into like a 3-part miniseries a la Obi-Wan, but that's neither here or there.
Wait, was the Continental supposed to be a movie?
Yeah, the Continental started off as like Ballerina, which honestly I'm shocked Ballerina got fucking made with how long that shit was in development.
Yeah,
Like,
didn't it get announced in like 2020 or something?
bro, I swear to God that shit got announced before the vid 19. Like,
Oh,
dude,
COVID-19.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I'm
that's.
saying that because I know like
I
YouTube
don't think
doesn't
it
like the
did.
word.
No, it doesn't.
I thought it did at least. It feel like it's been long enough where I feel like Ballerina has gotten to a point where like honestly I'll just wait till streaming. That's kind of how I feel. There's other things that I'd rather watch, especially like bro, I can't deal with the non-commitment to killing John Wick.
Well,
Like that's not
what do you
even
mean?
a
They
bro
did
that
kill him, though. They did kill him. In the fourth one, they killed him. He's dead.
bro, what are you talking about? They announced a fucking sequel to that already.
So he could be Ghost.
Oh
He
dude.
can come back as a zombie.
Oh dude. Don't.
But anyways,
No.
and Ballerina takes place before John Wick 4, so like continuity
That's
wise,
even worse, bro.
how is it
That's even
worse?
because their first thought while making Ballerina was like, how do we fit John Wick into this? Because that's probably what the issue was. Was I'm pretty sure they filmed the entire thing and then went back and reworked John Wick into it.
I don't think that's what happened.
I don't know, bro. I remember
Well,
hearing on the block.
according to Wikipedia, at least,
Yeah,
it says
Wikipedia.
Lionsgate acquired Hatton's, referring to Shay Hatton, his spec script for the spin-off film in 2017, leading to him contributing to the final script for Parabellum and serving as the lead writer for Chapter 4. In October 2019, Len Wiseman was hired as director of Underworld fame. Chad Stahelski, who had directed the previous John Wick films, was confirmed as producer by May 2020. So yeah, it has been in development for a little while.
Okay, so it hasn't like
But it was
been
officially
before like
announced in
2020.
2022, though.
Okay, so 3 years
So,
actually isn't bad in hindsight, but for some
yeah.
reason it feels like it's been longer.
I don't know. It's been a while, bro. Everything feels longer.
Nah, that's true. Life be going slow, but it also be going a little
Yeah, ever
fast. You
since the
heard?
vid-19 you were talking about, everything has just been, out of whack. But yeah. Anyways, so yeah, that's why we're talking about John Wick. I wanted to talk about all of them, but Ryan over here, it was too much for him to handle. Too much Keanu Reeves
Bro,
in one sitting.
they're fucking long, and
They're not that long.
I
Like the
feel like
first
by the
movie is like
third
an hour and
film
a
we just
half.
start saying the same thing. Like I feel like going back, like maybe when John Wick 5
But
comes
you want to
out.
do all the Final Destination movies?
I mean, yeah, bro, because it's came and gone. Like at least it makes sense for us to talk about like John Wick 3 and 4 when the new John Wick, like John Wick 5 comes out.
But
You
you really
know?
think they're not going to make another Final Destination?
And if they do, bro, it's gonna be a long ass time.
That's
Have you heard
probably
them
fair.
confirm it, bro? It's the highest box office made for all of them. I'm pretty sure. So there's no way they don't. Like, bro, don't get me
Yeah.
hyped. Don't get me excited.
Well, I'm just saying, like, the Final Destination was supposed to be the last one, but then that one made a lot of money. And so, lo and behold, we had Final Destination 5.
Hey, bro, it
So,
still fucking eats like a Sunday brunch.
and then, of
But
course, John Wick 5, or sorry, John Wick 4 was supposed to be the last one as well, and we're already getting another one of those. So, as long as things make money, we'll always get another one.
that's the problem, bro. That's the problem with Hollywood is like if it makes enough money, you know what? What's wrong with making another one, right? What's wrong with it? There's a lot wrong with it. Universal, MGM. Let me go down the
Disney.
list. Disney, yes, TNT, NBA, whoever the fuck owns all them, probably Disney. Honestly, oh wait, Disney does own them. It
Wait,
don't
on what?
matter, bro. I'm talking about a bunch of just cable networks. It don't matter, Leo. I know you
Oh.
don't get it, but it's fine.
Yeah, I don't watch
Um,
cable.
but I'm glad we're talking about the first two films.
I think the first two are really strong. I know, like, obviously the last two are kind of similar. Um, and I do agree it is a weird choice to have it go on that long because I thought for sure like, oh, the third one's going to be the last one, and it even had like a wacky like subtitle.
Yeah,
um
Parabellum,
yeah,
right?
that the other ones don't have, which I thought was like, oh, that means, I don't know, in my head I thought that was like, oh, that means that this is the last one.
You would
And
think.
then because it's weird because that's the only one that has it, and then like because you go from John Wick chapter 2, John Wick 3, Parabellum, and then John Wick chapter 4. Or
And
no,
then
it's
I
not even
hate.
chapter 4, it's John Wick 4, isn't it?
No, I think it is chapter 4.
Hold on, I got to look this up now.
And then I hate the title for Ballerina. I'm pretty sure it's called like Ballerina from the world of John Wick. Like, bro, could
Actually, it's
you?
called From the World of John Wick,
Oh,
Ballerina.
sorry. I didn't realize you could ask them to think any less. Like that. Like that's such an awful title, bro. What are we doing here? Like,
I mean, I think it makes sense in the context of things, but anyways, yeah. So, but I, as weird of a choice it is to have four um films instead of like three and like the main storyline, I think it works for the
yeah.
most part, and a lot of that is due to like what they set up in these two movies, and I don't know. I guess, yeah, it's interesting going back and because I remember when these movies were first coming out. I don't know, like what was your first experience with John Wick?
I don't know if this kind of ages me, like too young or something, or too old for audiences. But like, I was 14 when that first one came out, and I remember like,
I
bro,
was
before
11.
this, bro, before this came out, like, let me look real quick. John, like, Keanu Reeves had been on an acting hiatus at this point.
He wasn't on a hiatus. It's just his previous films
Okay,
didn't do very well. Because have you ever seen 47 Ronin?
yes, I have. I forgot about that movie. I
Yeah,
just
that
looked up,
came
but
out
like a
the
lot of
year
straight to
before.
DVD that no one's heard of,
Yeah,
like
well,
Henry's
honestly,
Crime, Extreme
47 Ronin
Pursuit,
probably should have been straight to DVD, but
The Private Lives of Pippa Lee. Like, what the fuck? But like everything he did, the Day the Earth Stood Still in 2008, The Lake House, and
that
like
was a pretty
he
decent movie. The Day the Earth Stood
between
Still.
John Wick and the Matrix Revolution, oh no, sorry, Constantine, not Matrix Revolution. It was kind of like a slippery slope of what he made, leaning towards not very good. Um,
Yeah,
I mean,
a lot of
everything we just
people.
named was in between Constantine and John
Yeah,
Wick.
well, a lot of people just naturally associate John Wick as like his what's the word I'm looking for?
Comeback?
Yeah, his comeback, like his renaissance as an actor. But he'd been in quite a bit of stuff leading up to this movie, namely 47 Ronin. That was the bigger one that I remember, and I think a lot of people probably do. Um, he also was in, I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, Man of Tai Chi, which is actually his directorial debut. That one was actually a decent movie. I don't know if you've ever seen that
I
one.
didn't see it, but I know. I've heard of it. Like I've heard things about it.
And then right after John Wick,
Dude,
he went
it's
into
such a
Knock
crazy
Knock.
film. Dude, which I find super ironically funny now.
I've never seen that movie, but I've heard of it, and
It's
it
a
is funny that
wild.
it's got a
It's
pre-fame Ana de Armas in it.
yeah, this is like it's like Ana de Armas's first English role. I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think that's. I can look at it real quick.
Off the top of my head, though, I'm pretty sure like Knock Knock was her first English speaking role, and I do like that little like comeback around. Now she's really famous, and now she's kind of like, I don't want to say taking the mantle, but like she's becoming like her own female John Wick, and like I don't want to say franchise, but like this is the closest thing to her being in a franchise she's gotten to. So
like
I think
leading a
that's just her.
franchise, you mean, or
Not, I mean, it's not leading a franchise because, like, wouldn't that be John, like, Keanu himself? But like being a bigger role in a larger
I mean, she's been
franchise.
in other franchises.
Like what? I can't think off the top of
I
my
mean, she
head.
was in No Time to Die.
Oh
Um,
yeah, we don't talk about that one though.
why you don't like that one?
Nah, honestly, I'm not really too fond of them after dude, what was the one from 2011? Why am I blanking on it?
um, Quantum of Solace.
Yeah, no. That was like 2008.
Skyfall.
2011 Skyfall, yeah,
You don't
Skyfall.
like Skyfall?
No, they haven't been good since Skyfall.
Oh, I mean, yeah, Spectre was all right.
Quantum of Solace actually isn't really good. It's really just Casino Royale and Skyfall that are good, but that's neither
I
here or
mean, No
there.
Time to Die is all right. Yeah, you're right. But anyways, yeah, I mean, she's been in. I don't know. Does Blade
She's
Runner count?
been
She was in The Gray Man. We might get a
yeah.
sequel to that.
We don't talk about that. God help
Oh my god.
everyone's soul.
Okay, we should
Um,
we,
what
we
I
should get
will
back
say
on
is
topic.
I was shocked. I haven't seen John Wick in a hot minute. It's been quite a few years since I'd seen this,
Oh,
and
really?
yet again, I feel like this is another common occurrence. I forgot how many fucking people were in this. I always
I always
forget Willem
forget.
Dafoe is
Yeah,
in
Willem
this,
Dafoe.
and I know you might not know her, but Adriana Palicki,
I know her.
she
Yeah,
yeah, she was in the like remake of Red Dawn with Chris Hemsworth,
I
but
forget
then she
she's
was
in that, but I
also
have seen
in
it.
Shield, Agents of Shield, which is like what I
Yeah,
knew her from, and then
same.
which always kind of throwback, um, and then it's always nice to see like John Leguizamo just pop into a film. I don't know. You got the
You
late
know,
Lance Reddick, you got Ian McShane, and then I know she's not in the film a lot, but Bridget, I always
Moynihan.
yeah, Moynihan. I always have a hard time saying her
I always
last
forget what
name.
I've seen her in.
She's that person where you're just like, oh, I remember your face.
Oh, I forget. She was in Some of All Fears and The Recruit. That
Yeah.
weird like CIA movie with Al Pacino and Colin Farrell.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's all I don't mean to say that it's bad that we forget that certain people are in this movie, but it's always a nice surprise when you go back and watch and be like, oh, that's right, Willem Dafoe is in this movie. Oh, this person, fucking Dean Winters, the guy who plays Vigo's lawyer. I've only ever seen him in those fucking life insurance
Yeah,
commercials,
dude.
and it was so weird when I saw this, like
Uh,
after so long, because when I first saw this, I don't think I knew who he was, and then I went back and I watched it like after like so many years, and I was like, oh shit, that's the dude from the what is it, Allstate or something? Those
yeah,
commercials.
Allstate, the Allstate commercials.
But John Leguizamo, I'm always surprised to see him in movies. Um, Not because I think he's a bad actor. I think he's a good actor, but for the longest time I always associated him with like Ice Age, and then I started seeing him in like more like adult oriented movies. Like he was in The Lincoln Lawyer with Matthew McConaughey, and I remember like just my entire family were just like, that doesn't you don't belong in this movie for some reason. But like as I've gotten older, I've seen him in more and more stuff, and like I've started to recognize him as more than like Sid the Sloth.
What
And
you don't, bro? You
I
don't
like him in
recognize
his
him as
movies.
Mario? What are you talking about?
Okay, that's a movie we
We
shouldn't talk
definitely
about.
nah, bro. We definitely got to do that movie.
Maybe
whenever
when Mario Bros.
Mario
2 comes
2,
out,
yeah.
we can talk about both those movies.
Yeah, because, dude, I
Um,
haven't seen that in a hot minute, but, like, that's how I know John Leguizamo is
mm,
through that film. Bro, I was obsessed with Super Mario Brothers when I was fucking young. I watched, like, all the cartoons and shit. I watched him. I'm like, oh my god, bro. And then I saw him in, Dave the Living Dead, or which one was it? Fuck. I forgot. They all kind of just mushed together.
mm.
But he's in one of the Romero zombie films.
Oh, he is.
Not yeah, City of the Dead something, but
Hmm.
not one of my favorite. But he's definitely like my favorite part in it. He's definitely one of those actors who always kind of makes a bad movie good, and he always just stands out when I see him. And that kind of goes for like
I
again
always,
all these actors. A lot of these people aren't in this film very long, but
yeah,
they make do with the time that they're given. I think.
yeah. I definitely agree. Real quick,
But
I just want to throw in real quick. I always forget he's in Romeo and Juliet, the Baz Luhrmann one.
oh, I forgot about
He plays
that.
Tybalt.
Oh,
But
I forgot about that.
going back to John Wick, another surprise actor in this is I don't know if I'm saying this name right, but Alfie Allen of Game of Thrones fame.
Yeah.
I always forget he's in this movie too, but I think he plays the Vigo's son Yosef pretty well. Like he's got like a very cowardly, thing going on. Um,
Well, I think the thing with these first two films that they both strike gold with is them being the first two films is that's kind of my issue with like I guess spoiler for my opinions on the third and fourth is it just a little too repetitive at that point. Like I think the action's really cool and I think what they do with it's really fun,
mhm,
but like it only limits what like I think of the film at the end of the day, and I think that's you start to see that in the second one a little bit, but I just think they did it so well in the first one that it's made it so hard to replicate it because for such a simple premise they make you care like unruly ungodly amount for John Wick at the start of this film between losing his wife Helen to cancer and then almost like the one movie sin outside of killing children on screen is killing animals, especially
mm,
little cute, adorable puppies on screen. And having John Wick, who just lost his wife to cancer, who bought the dog for him, to like kind of cope with her loss, just get brutally murdered by the most pretentious, like rich
douchebag.
Russian kid douchebag, like someone you just like want to see John Wick go after, and it only makes it better because of the way they unfold who he is as a character.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. I think like because of what the John Wick as a franchise has become, it can be a little difficult to return to the first one because it doesn't have a lot of that like more absurdist quality to it. But I am always surprised by how well like those first like 20 minutes of the movie like we we do get so much about John Wick's character. And I gotta say, like, I'm always surprised at how good like Keanu Reeves' performance is in like the first like 20-30 minutes of the movie because he's like doing a lot of the heavy lifting, like that's not like action based. You know what I mean?
No,
Um,
yeah, dude. Like, I'm shocked because Keanu Reeves has never been known too much for amazing acting. He's always been a good actor, like, but not like a super deep and emotional one. Like, he'll get you crying.
yeah.
But he really shows up in this film, and I think that's like the thing that made it so shocking at the time is to kind of see Keanu go through that kind of mushy 7 year span of filmmaking and then kind
Hmm.
of come out of nowhere with a basic premise and just give us a really strong performance to make us care very deeply.
Yeah, and I think some of that has to do with like his own personal like experiences with like grief and trauma. Um, but I also think it helps that the writer, Derek Kolstad, and he's been a writer in like all of these films. But so this originally started out as a spec script from him that he then sold to the producers at Thunder Road, I think it's called.
Hmm.
And he was inspired by two really bad revenge action movies that he saw, and I think that's why this feels kind of like it takes a lot of those like common tropes, but like sort of like adds like a slight twist to them. And I think that's part of why the writing works a lot better than you think it would, especially in like this kind of like, you know, independent action movie.
No, yeah, and it's kind of the way in which the story is structured is like he just kind of seems like this very simple, basic man who
Yeah.
just, you know what, he lives a basic life, he has some good money, he doesn't do much with it, which is why I think he lives in the mountains, not too expensive, and then he just runs across the wrong people. But then, like, I just love the first time, like, when Lucif tells Vigo about,
Oh,
like, the car. Or, no, no, not when he tells Vigo, but when
Aurelio.
he goes to Aurelio. And
Yeah.
Aurelio's just like, dude, I don't want this. And then you're just, like, kind of like, what? And then John Wick goes into, like, his little man cave, like, basement after going to Aurelio trying to find the car that was stolen, and then you see him just take a hammer to the ground and just take out all of his stuff, and you're just like, oh my god, dude, this guy's gonna just commit war crimes now. Like, what is going on? Like, holy shit.
Well, it's such a brilliant way of like building up to like the moment where like he's deciding to sort of, you know, return to the
That
life
life.
that he gave up beforehand, and also in like just building up like who he was without like directly like, because that was another thing, like they didn't want to include like flashbacks to his time before he married Helen, and so they
Well,
had to
they
get
do.
kind of like creative with like, you know, referencing things and how other characters. I just love the way that in this movie specifically, how characters react when they hear his name, like when Aurelio tells um Vigo over the phone, like because he killed John Wick's dog and stole his car, and he's just like, oh, and then they hang up. Like it's stuff like that that I really enjoy, like how they handle his character.
The film just does one detrimental sin that I can never forgive it for, that I hate films for doing.
What is that?
It's for showing, like, a bit of the end of the film before at the
Oh,
beginning.
yes. Well, I think it's
It
called like In Medias Res or something.
Yeah, Medias Res, wherever the fuck. All I know is it's pointless, and I think it takes away from the stakes early on, especially like that first. I'm not saying like it takes away tremendously, but it's like the little things like that where I'm just like, did you guys just like watch this back and think like this didn't take away from like him being a little bit more badass when you first reveal him just like having these insane fucking ninja moves when the people come back to his house and he just wrecks their day by what I gotta give the film too, it has some really great lighting that
Yeah.
works towards the stuff, because there's so many things that can go wrong with one take action films like this, which is I think what started a lot of these action films. Like the film that always comes to mind is that Nobody film with what's his
Mm,
name from Nobody Calls Saul, or
yeah.
somebody calls Saul, or Breaking Bad.
Better Call Saul.
Better Call Saul, yeah, the guy from Breaking Bad too. Um, it's really well lit. They don't try to do anything fancy outside of some basic simple movements with the camera to get
Hmm.
around the action that I think works in the favor of the film, because I think a lot of the action films, especially in like 2014, were very CGI heavy, fast cuts,
Choppy,
choppy,
shaky
shaky cam,
cam.
trying to hide all the flaws, and I think that's why it stood out, is like it was like, no, it's just good on the floor fucking, the camera's on the floor, some really good fight choreography to get around the camera, really well lit scenes to hide the punches. Like,
Mm.
you that's why I like the rave scenes super well. They're really well lit for, I don't know, there's so many stuff that could go wrong with this film that just goes really well. And I think that's what makes it for that much more of an enjoyable experience outside of the rather basic setup, but super deep meaning that it has through like Keanu's performance.
Yeah, I agree that like it's very easy to fall into like that rabbit hole of like other like cliche action films. And I love that everyone involved with this was kind of like, no, we don't want to do that. And so it makes it feel fresh and inventive, even though on the surface it feels, or it might feel like kind of simple. Um, and yeah, I love the way that all the action scenes are handled. Like it's not very choppy. Some things can be a little dark, but you can still see what's going on. Um, and I don't know. I love the action style with like the guns and stuff. And I know it's at this point it's probably getting a little old because of we've had three other John Wick movies, and other movies have kind of done similar things at this point. But at the time when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like it felt new, it felt different. And it was nice to see this kind of like older protagonist who was like coming back in and trying to refind his mojo. Like I love that John Wick still gets his ass beat in a lot of these movies, um because otherwise there wouldn't really be any like tension with a lot of like the action scenes that are going on, because you always feel like at any moment he's problem solving, he's trying to gain the upper hand, and if something goes wrong he could get like kind of fucked up. um
Well, I like it too because the tension isn't necessarily in if you think he'll die because they outbeat him. I don't know if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like,
mm,
I don't know. The entire time, I'm just waiting for him to kind of just kill himself. Like, him to do something so stupid to get
oh.
to, like, Vigo and ESF by the end of the film that it's just going to cost him his life, which is, like, essentially, like, what the beginning of the film sets up. Like, he's
Hmm.
bleeding out. Like, oh my God, is he going to die? What just happened? Which is why I fucking hate those beginnings, but that's neither here or there, but it's also like that he feels like he's lost everything and like nothing really matters to him,
Oh, so he has
and
nothing to lose.
he has nothing to lose, but you also know how everyone else views him. Everyone else is scared of him. No,
Yeah.
no one is ever not afraid of him. Like Vigo confronts him because he has to at the end of the day to like get retaliation for his son. He never
Yeah.
wants to fight John. ISF only wants to fight John because everyone keeps essentially calling him a pussy for like starting this, right?
I mean, he
Like
doesn't even necessarily want to fight him. He just like.
he's trying to stand up for himself. You know what I mean? He's not trying to like run away. Even though he does technically run away,
Mhm.
like I'm never afraid for John Wick because I feel like someone's going to outbeat him.
Mm.
And he's got like those friends on his side too, like Marcus, the hotel manager, Ariello. Like you always know that he's never by himself. Like there's people that have those like
Connections.
excommunicado connections because like he was out, but now he's like that's the thing is like. Is he back in? And that's always the good scene. He's like, you know what? I'm thinking I'm back.
That's
you
such an
know,
what's funny about that? That's such
it
an
makes no
awkward
sense
line
in the moment.
delivery, but it's so cool at the same time. Like, yeah, yeah,
Only,
John,
only
tell
fucking,
him.
yeah, only Keanu Reeves could make that line work in the moment, though.
Well, it's funny because like there's every once in a while there'll be like just sprinklings of that. Like in the second movie, he has that line of like, do you want a war or do you just want to give me a gun? Like it's
And it's just like, give this man a gun.
yeah, I don't know. I like that though about this stuff. Like it feels, I don't know. It just everything about this feels kind of different, and you get more of that as you go along, like with each entry. Um,
But I think it has a good foundation for like what the Continental and all the underground stuff is. Like
yeah, I
that's
love
why
the
I
world building in
enjoy.
this.
I love the world building in the first two,
Hmm.
but like I said, that's where I get kind of muddled in the third and fourth. I think that's where like the writing limitations is really starting to be like felt by those films, but I
Mm.
think they do a really good job at building them up with these first two, and kind of giving you the teases like through these little weird objects like the fucking gold coins, and like,
Yeah.
bro, people are paying one gold coin for a drink, but also one gold coin for like a night at the hotel. What is the fucking currency of these things, people? Like, especially when they seem so valuable. Like, that's not a nitpick. That's just a funny thing I noticed. Um, but it's like all these cool little ideas of like no doing business on the Continental, no matter if you guys have beef. It's all these small little things like, oh, okay, this is really cool. But then, of course, you're always going to have beef
Hmm.
on the Continental. Like, it always comes back to that him fighting somewhere in it. Um, so it's cool stuff like that that I thought I didn't realize this, but I can't believe it was 3 years that we waited between this and the second one. That by the time
Yeah.
you get to the second one, you're like, okay, I'm curious to see what they do with the world, especially with
Well,
like
yeah,
Winston.
I think that's probably because it wasn't intended to be like the start of a franchise. Like they weren't even gonna get a theatrical release. But it did so well at like with screenings at like film festivals. Specifically, I think it was like what Fantastic Fest or something that
Yeah, yeah, it was
it got like
Fantastic
it
Fest.
got such a heavy demand for doing more screenings that Thunder Road and I'm trying to remember the other producing partner, like who distributed it. Oh, Lionsgate, sorry, Lionsgate through or Summit via Lionsgate. Um, they decided like, oh, I well maybe we should just give it a theatrical release, and it's so cool like looking back, and because when I first saw this I was like, oh, this is like a Summit movie, it's a Lionsgate movie, this is a big budget, you know affair. But then looking into it, you realize no, this was a pretty much independent like feature. Um, lot like a lot of it was through independent investors. Eagle-eyed viewers might notice that Ava Longoria has a producing credit on this
I
movie.
always forget that. I always
Yeah, well,
forget
she's
that.
only on this one. She didn't come back to do it for the other ones, but yeah, she
And
contributed a large sum of money because they ran out of money to do stuff, and they were already cutting stuff. Like some of the actors agreed to,
like cut their pay.
yeah, to cut some of their pay. They were like making changes to the script to make sure it wasn't too expensive, but they still needed other more financing. And so I'm trying to remember what the actual budget for this was. I think okay,
I think it was like
the
40
budget was
million.
about $20 to $30 million,
Okay.
and that might sound like a lot, but I mean,
Today's day and age, it's not when
fucking
like
what the
Superman
yeah.
cost 560. Like,
Yeah, and so it was a relatively low budget action film for what they were trying to do and what they accomplished. Um, and we've talked about it before on this podcast about like independent or indie films. I think like we kind of talked about this a little bit with the Hurt Locker too. But yeah, it's always interesting to see how surprise of a hit this was when it came out.
well, I also find it interesting with them like getting Chad Stahelski to direct this film with his background in
Stunt
stunt
coordination.
coordination, and like how much that really shows in this film. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, I'm pulling up some of his stunt credits right now.
I mean, he was one of the stunt doubles and coordinators on the Matrix films. That's
That's right.
that's
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 right.
the that's
That's how
the
they met
bigger
each
one.
other.
Yeah, that's how because Keanu Reeves.
He did the Expendables,
Um.
Hunger Games, Spy
Oh wow.
Kids, Red, The Wolverine,
Oh yeah, I
Deadpool
remember the
2.
Wolverine. Yeah.
He also directed Deadpool 2, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, David Leitch directed Deadpool 2, not Chad
Oh,
Stahelski.
that's right. That's right. That's right.
So
Oh wow, he did it
technically,
on Tron Legacy? Oh, dude, he did it on a lot of films that I did not
yeah.
know.
So technically,
Van
Stahelski
Helsing too,
is.
that's right.
Oh, he did. That's funny.
Yeah. Best stunts ever, bro.
But yeah, technically, I think Stahelski is the one who's credited with directing this movie. Like he has the sole director credit, but I'm pretty sure David Leitch did some. like directing with him,
I wouldn't
or
be shocked.
at least on the Wikipedia it says that they were both like hired to direct. David Leitch is credited as a producer. But yeah, Keanu Reeves met them through The Matrix, and he was the one who sent them the script, intending for them to come on as stunt coordinators, and then they sort of pitched to him like, "Hey, we'd kind of like to direct this," and so Keanu Reeves helped them get that job. Like he helped convince the producers, like, "Hey, I think you should let them direct instead of just doing like all the stunt coordinating." And like
Quite the risk.
it's yeah, it is quite the risk, but it paid off immensely. And they're really talented in terms of like,
It made Keanu Reeves. They made Keanu Reeves known for something that wasn't Matrix.
yeah.
Like
Honestly, I feel like
that's a
most
stellar job.
yeah, I feel like most people like in the younger generations are probably going to remember him more for John Wick than they will
Yeah,
for like The Matrix, which
that's
is
bro.
interesting.
That's a crazy thought to any '90s kid.
Well, it's a crazy thought for me too, because I remember, watching The Matrix for the first time, being like, "Oh, this is awesome!" Like, Keanu Reeves. I mean, I'd seen him in other stuff, but that
I
was kind of
know,
what I knew
bro.
him most
Speed was
for.
the first thing I saw him in.
I think Dracula was the first thing I saw him in, unfortunately.
God bless your soul, brother. I'm
But
sorry.
yeah, I mean, I think it's just interesting how Keanu Reeves has two of like the biggest action franchises like just on his belt for now.
Just like some casual reason, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I think it speaks to his talent as an actor, and an actor who can like commit to these action, like these heavy action films. Because I'm pretty sure it's a lot of him doing it, and you can tell in the way that it's shot that it is him for the most part, and I think
Well,
they
yeah,
do a
bro.
good
He
job of
he
selling
like
it.
did gun training in a military base for these
He did a
movies.
lot of training. He did training with Navy SEALs,
Yeah, dude. He like fucking went all
a lot of
in.
martial arts.
I think you can also owe this movie to the making of Matrix 4. Like, I don't think Matrix 4 would have been made if John Wick wasn't ever in it.
Oh, I mean, I don't know about that, but
I don't
I'm
know,
sure it
bro. This
helped.
revitalized Keanu's career tremendously, and
No, yeah, I'm not
no,
saying that it
and
didn't, but
not as an
I
actor, but like an
feel
action star.
yeah, but I still feel like at some point we would have gotten, because it's less about the action and more about um the nostalgia
I was going to say
of the
there's
franchise
nothing
stuff.
original about that fourth one, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about the Matrix sometime,
One day,
because that movie was awful. Um,
the
But yeah, I
Matrix
mean, well,
reboot.
everything about this is just equally as iconic because of like he's wearing the suit, he's got the long hair and the beard. Like I don't know, just that became Keanu Reeves' look in like the mid 2010s to now. Um,
And it did start like a pretty big meme for a while where it's just like, you kill my dog, I'll literally just
oh,
run through you
I
or
think it's funny
whatever.
that in these movies that everyone makes fun of him, like it's like you're doing this because of a dog or in a car, and it's just like, well, I like
Yeah, but
how
it's the sentiment.
yeah, that's the part that I appreciate about the writing in terms of how emotional it becomes. Like even though yeah, like on the surface it's you'd think it's just a dog or a car, but it means more. And that's what I like going into like the second one, because it starts with that like car chase and all of that stuff in that warehouse, and then once he like rolls his I always feel bad watching that fucking car get demolished, but
He loves it so much.
you when he pulls into the garage, the first thing he does is he opens up the glove compartment and he pulls out something that his wife gave him, and so like kind of recontextualizes like why the car was so important to him.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the thing with the second one is it does a lot of the heavy story lifting in that first act,
Mm.
and then it kind of it transitions into what the next few films are, where it's minimal plot, few things to like push the narrative forward, but then 15-minute action scene, five ten
Well, I
minute
mean, I still think it does. They do a good job of like still carrying the narrative through the action because like the thing that I really like about the latter or the end of this movie is that the motivations have kind of changed because at the start it's just like him doing this because of the marker, and then you go into like halfway through it switches to now he's being hunted and he has to like kill Santino, and then all of a sudden it's just about this. I don't know. It becomes um, very much about like the politics of like this underworld like crime organization thing, and that's kind of what I like about this one in particular. And I think it does continue on with the other ones enough for me to like still be on board and have a good time.
No, yeah, like I said, I think the second one kind of builds the foundation better in terms of teasing that secret underground organization. Like my, this might be really random, but there's something about this scene that just is always fantastic to me. But it's at the end, when I know you won't know this just by watching the scene, but when he goes to Central Park to meet Winston at the end, and Winston's just like, you know what, they're all hunting you, but I gave you some time. And then that the moment when everyone just stops and looks at him, you're just like, oh my god, bro, how fucking deep does this go? And I think they did a really good job at like launching forward into the third one with that way. It's just like you can't really trust anyone at that point because like
Yeah.
bro, people with children were fucking staring at him. You're like, are these like that Black Widow type things where it's these fake families just to like cover up or something? I don't know, but they make you ask a lot more questions that the answers aren't the best for what, like, if you want to call them answers from what I remember in the third and fourth film. Um, but I I think the film just I know this is more of a hindsight I think remark, but I don't like that the film kind of just turns into this straight up action piece, but more so because I know what comes later. Like, I think it's cool in the moment and makes the film interesting, but then watching them back to back, it just kind of feels like one long action film.
Mm.
And I think that's why the first one works so much better than I think any of the ones that come after. Is it feels like a fully structured narrative and isn't kind of cluttered with, let's put most of the story in the front half, do a lot of the action in the second half, but then kind of mix mash it at some point, but then go back to like in the third film having like an hour long action sequence of this dude running through fucking a European city. Like, I feel like I took long to get to that point, but nonetheless I got to it, guys.
I mean, I would agree. I think that watching them back to back, it can feel a little
That's what I did too. So that's also why I
yeah,
make that remark. It's not like sitting in a theater because it's hard to
yeah.
like give a review of that at this point. But
But yeah, I mean, I understand that when you're rewatching it, it kind of can feel like just more of the same. Um, but I do feel that it still does a good job of like keeping up the momentum, and I do agree that like the first one is probably the most easily accessible because it doesn't have as much of that in it. But I still think the second one has an. I think the second one has a good balance of it compared to the other ones because it still has enough of its own like story structure. Like the last two are I do agree get kind of bogged down by the whole like, oh, there's just someone else is trying to kill him, and there's all that like high table stuff. And I think that's why on a rewatch I think I like the third one less every time I go back to it because that one kind of feels more like the middle section than any of the other ones do. Um, and going into it, I did kind of expect it to be the last one. And I mean, there's still things that I like about that one, but I do agree that I think the first and the second one handle a lot of like the story elements a lot better.
I like I said, I think they benefit in this film from it not them not being deep enough in the world for them
Yeah.
to have to like make it make sense yet. But I think their ideas are in the right places when they start and are actually really interesting. And I think that's why like they were able to build momentum like they did with these first two. And then just like we don't talk about that Continental show. I never want to like mention it again. I keep thinking about it for some reason. It's just like won't leave my head, bro. It's like that toxic ex relationship. But
Well, isn't it like a Peacock original or something? Which that's not
yeah.
a good sign. Oh no, it
Yeah,
was
it's
an
fucking what?
Amazon original. Why does it say Amazon?
I thought it was on Peacock, bro.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Oh, sorry. It's Peacock in the United States and Amazon Prime in
Ah, that's what I thought.
internationally. But yeah, I mean, it was primarily produced for
Peacock.
Peacock and by Universal. I don't know. I
But
think I don't know. It was an interesting choice to make a prequel set around that. I don't know. It just didn't seem like the most interesting. That's why I'm more excited about like Ballerina because it feels like an interesting direction. Post John Wick 4.
I find it really interesting because I feel like they had something with Lawrence Fishburne's character in the second one with like the Bowery King. I
Oh
thought like maybe a show with him could have been interesting, like how he started controlling like the sewers of New York. Like
yeah.
that could be kind of interesting. But you know what? I want to see Common come back for a little short series as Cassian.
I always thought it was an interesting choice to cast him in this movie. I'm not saying he's bad,
Just interesting.
but yeah, I don't know if he'd be able to lead a spinoff of his own.
And then I
Um,
forget Ruby Rose is in this. I don't know if you know who that is.
I do, yeah. She was a Batwoman for one season.
Batwoman.
I think she's pretty good in this, given the fact that she doesn't really have like any not she doesn't have any spoken
I
dialogue.
like her character in this though, like with the whole
Yeah,
sign language.
I like that every character they come up with has like feels different and has their own like you know eccentric like qualities.
That makes him a
Um,
ruthless killer.
yeah, and I don't know. It always makes every time they introduce a new character feel interesting, but at the same time, it can make it feel like a little frustrating when they don't bring back characters because like technically Common's character doesn't die, um, and um, neither does Aurelio's, but he's absent from the next two ones. Um, but yeah, I mean, every character feels like they have a good place in the story.
Yeah, and yet again, I think the thing that works with the first one that works with the second one, I don't think as well, is the interpersonal like dynamics between each character in John Wick. Because a lot more of these people do know
Hmm.
him that we didn't meet from in the first one, like Santino, Ares,
Yeah.
Cassian, like this whole new wave. Like I will say, watching the second one, bro, it did make me realize, wow, bro, everyone really just wants to see John Wick off this fucking planet. like the fucking Santino's sister just straight off killing herself to make Santino the head of the family or whatever it was, just literally fucking made me laugh on the floor crying, bro. His
Why?
sister, bro, the idea that she straight up just like killed herself just so her brother could take leadership, just
Well, she was gonna die anyways.
wait, she was. I don't remember them saying that.
What do you mean? That's the whole reason why John Wick went over to kill her. He went to go kill her. She was gonna die regardless.
Damn, you're right. You're right. I will say though, it was fucked up. I don't remember him grabbing her hand last
Oh, it's
time.
like yeah.
Yeah, to like push the blood out and make her die faster. I'm
Well,
like,
I don't think it's that. I think it's he's like
oh no,
holding her to like.
no, bro. If he was wanted to hold her hand, he would have kept his hand in the water. He's like, bro, you didn't see him like tighten his grip to like push it. Like she starts gushing even more. Shawty's dead, bro. Like
Well, I
she
know.
straight
I
up
don't.
just
I don't think that's what that is though.
Oh, I took it as him just like trying to make her die faster instead of like a
Well, why would
slow,
he do that
painful
though?
death.
Because he, if at that point, because he shoots her anyways. Like at
Which
that
I
point, he
thought
might
was
as well
weird
have
at
just
that point
shot
because
her.
I thought that was weird too. Like, bro, she straight up just like slid both her wrists. She is not coming back from this, my man.
She's not coming back from any of that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, why waste the bullets when you're just about to go into a 20-minute action sequence that you just know?
Well, he had a lot of rounds. He had a lot of firepower for that.
Hey, this was also the first film to take into account like bullets in a magazine
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
reloading correctly. Like, that's the one thing I took from this. But no, I really do like these first two sets, and that's why I wanted to talk about them more
Yeah.
than the second three, is because I had higher remarks for these two, and I felt like the third and fourth we can get into like a bit of a redundant conversation. Maybe we might have to sprinkle like a third one in between when we do those one day, because I feel like those two are so similar.
Mm.
But
I mean, yeah. Watching them back, I feel like I like John Wick 4 a lot more than I like the third one. Um, I
that's
think the
because
third
that
one's
one just
probably one of
fully
my least
embraced
favorites.
because it's kind of confusing with whether it wants to build more story or be a straight up action film. The
Well, I mean,
fourth
they
one
get
just
rid
straight
of
up
a lot of the
becomes an action
stuff.
film.
My problem is that the fourth one kind of ditches a lot of the story threads from the third one because, like, you have Winston and Charon's betrayal, but they don't really do anything with that. Um, and it just kind of feels like you can kind of skip over a lot of the third one, like going from the second to the third to the fourth. You can kind of just skip the third one, and you wouldn't really lose much story. Um, but yeah,
No, yeah, I absolutely agree.
but I do really like a lot of the action stuff in those last two. Like they're really good. I will say, I don't know if you notice this, but I notice it every time I watch because it's hard for me not to. But in John Wick Chapter 2, there's two green screen shots that I think are really, really bad. And it's one of the few times that I think they use a green screen, and you can really tell that they're using a green screen. Do you know which ones I'm talking about?
No, enlighten me.
So the scene where Common and Keanu are chasing each other through the streets of Rome to get back to the Continental. After they fall down the stairs like three times, which spoiler alert, that happens again in the fourth one, but um
But in like a funny degree.
yeah. But so when they're fighting like right outside the window, there's one shot, it's kind of like a two shot where they're like um fighting with the knives and you can see the background and you can tell that it's keyed out. That one's not as noticeable, but you can kind of tell. But the one that's really noticeable is that when they're standing on the other side of that fountain at like the train station
Oh yeah,
and it cuts to the close up of them, like it's
it's
so
kind of
bad.
awkward.
You can see the green, like there's like a subtle green line, like where the light was bouncing off the green screen onto the actors' faces.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
Hey, I'll forgive him though for the rest. I'll forgive him for the rest.
But yeah, is there anything else
I
that
was
you
about to
wanted
say,
to
do you want
add
to get?
before we do our ratings?
No, I say let's just get into final readings.
Nice. I'll let you go first. Yeah. What did you rate? I know you rated John Wick 2 and we'll talk about that, but yeah, let me know about the first one.
John Wick 1, I gave a 4 out of 5. I think this is the one with. I'm not going to say the best action because I think they definitely improved on that with each film. But
Yeah.
for what its timing, like the action holds up so well. It's so fucking good. But this one has the best story, John Wick, the original, and really makes me care about the character the most. And I think has the best intentions or
Mm.
like the best character, like what you know what he wants the
Mhm.
most rather in this one than the other ones. Like I don't know. It's way more heartfelt. Like, dude, I'm a dog person too. I don't know if that adds to him losing the dog on top of like the meaning of the dog itself, and
Yeah.
that's why it made it so much better when he got the dog in the second one. But I think the first one does everything right and is held. I think if they were given a little bit more money, they could make it a little bit better. I don't I don't know how probably, um, but yeah, 4 to 5 for the first one. I fucking love going back to it, bro.
Hmm.
Do you want me to do the second one too, or we doing one?
I mean, it's up to you if you want to do the second one.
And I'll just do second one. And second one, I give it a 3 out of 5. I think it carried over what the first one did right, but the story, the world building isn't as strong. Ultimately, I believe. I do. I don't know. This is just me personally, and this is another thing about the third and fourth one that I kind of dislike. Is there's I think in my book there's a thing is too much action. I
Yeah.
And I think the second one does start to bear on that to where I kind of just start losing interest. Where I'm just like, all right, let's get to a few more plot elements.
Yeah.
Um, but I gave it a 3 because everything it does right is just kind of what the first one had already done, so it doesn't feel as original, and
Hmm.
the action doesn't feel like it takes that step up that the third one does.
Hmm.
Um, so that's kind of my reasoning for giving it a 3. Uh, but yeah, what are your ratings?
So, or what did you want to read your reviews first for the from Letterboxd?
All right, if you want me to.
I
Oh
kind of
my
do,
god.
yeah.
All right, I gotta pull it up. I gotta pull it up. All right. For John Wick, this goes hard. Anything for the puppy. And then John Wick 2, I actually didn't write a review. I couldn't
Oh, I
think of
thought you did.
anything, bro. No, I couldn't think of
Mm.
anything.
All right. So for me, I gave the first John Wick. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I have a review, but it's an old one. Um, Hold on, where is it? Fucking Christ. Where's my history? Hold on, technical issues. Give me a second. Let's see. Where is this? Jesus Christ, it's taking longer than I thought. Yeah, I think most of it was just like definitely one of the best action films of the 2010s. Um, Keanu Reeves is back and better than ever. I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of just re-elaborating in more condensed way what I've already said about the movie on the podcast. I do agree that this one has probably the tighter story. It's not my favorite among the lineup because I do like um how the story continues in some of the sequels. Um, but overall, yeah, I think it does a good job of getting you to attach yourself to the character and like his conflict. But yeah, I'm also a dog person, so but I think just pets in general, it's hard for you to watch them like
Yeah, just like
suffer.
any animal. Yeah,
Yeah, and
it's
I
just
think it's
hard.
interesting that people didn't think like people involved in this in the production didn't think that it was a good idea to like kill the dog because like some of the other directors that were in talks to be involved wanted to like expand on John's family and have them be like the
Of
leading
course.
motivation. Yeah, yeah. All that cliche shit. And the writer Derek Kolstad was just like, no, it's like we're not doing that. And I like that about this movie. And I know people make fun of like, oh, somebody killed John Wick's dog, and now he's coming for you. But I don't know. I think that works in this movie. Like it feels emotional and it feels earned. But anyways, John Wick 2. Um, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5, which I don't know. I feel like it's interchangeable on whether or not it's like a 4 or 4.5. I still really like this one. Um, I think it is slightly a step up from the first one. Like it still has kind of like a tight story. I like the new like plot developments, and I like that it's not like, I guess the easiest comparison to make is like the Taken movies. Have you seen all of those?
Unfortunately.
Like it's not just like the same story over and over again. In this one at least, it feels like they found a good reason to continue the story by having Santino come with the marker, and it builds off of things that like we already know about John, and that he got out by doing like this impossible task, and now we're introduced to the Santino character, and he's like, oh, you know I helped you, now you have to help me. I don't know, it's more world building stuff that I like, but it also like influences the plot as well, like the main kickoff to the rest of the story. But yeah, and also the action is just like really really good in this one. I do agree that at some points it kind of feels like it goes on a bit too much, especially in this one. But it's inventive and exciting enough that it doesn't bother me as much as it does in like the next one. But yeah.
Yep, I agree. Leo, what are we watching next week?
All right, next week we are watching the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy, and I'm really excited about this because the new the live action remake's coming out. I've heard um some good things about it. Most of it is just like,
Just the same movie, just
it's the same
in live
movie. Like
action.
it's not an offensive remake,
It's just
but
shot for
it kind of
shot.
just
That's the
makes you
thing.
question, why did we need to have this. But I'm excited about that one. That one I might actually go see in theaters instead of Mission Impossible.
No, you should go see Mission Impossible, bro.
No, we already talked about that. But yeah, you haven't seen all of them, have you?
I only seen the first one.
All right, I'm super excited because I'm really curious to know what you think about these movies.
I
But yeah,
really like the first one, and I
the first
know
one is
the
amazing.
I know the third one got good ratings, but I don't know how people feel about the second. So
Me personally, I think the first two are better. Not to say that the third one is bad, but I definitely think the first two have more going for them. But the first one is definitely the best. Like, you can't beat that one. I saw that in theaters when it came out. Like, that was such an amazing experience, and yeah, I'm excited to talk about those ones. So yeah, stay tuned for next week when we talk about the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy from DreamWorks.